Hi, it's Ginny, and today I'm going to be doing a first impressions of the Sipping Pretty palette. This is a new Kylie Cosmetics palette for Kylie Jenner's 21st birthday, the 21 collection. And I'm doing a first impression as opposed to a full-on review so that you can get an idea as to whether or not this is something that you would want to purchase since it's going to be released tomorrow. I can do a review on it in the future if you'd like me to. Go ahead and leave a comment down below and I will do that. And in a review I'll give you a more in-depth look as to whether or not this palette is something to consider purchasing if you're considering purchasing it for a restock and you're not necessarily worried about getting it as soon as possible. Now, a few things right off the bat for this particular palette here. As you can probably tell, there's glitter everywhere. And when I was putting this back inside of the box, which this is the packaging that it comes in, super cute. The glitter was just scraping off and getting everywhere, and it was getting on my fingers. So that's just a little something to note about the packaging. Of course, that has nothing to do with the quality of the eyeshadows, and we're going to find out whether or not those eyeshadows perform, or at least some of those eyeshadows perform on the eyes today. In terms of other little criticisms with the packaging, the shade names are on the back. For me personally, when I'm doing my makeup, I don't really care what the eyeshadow name is that I'm applying on my eyes, but I can see that it might be something that you're concerned about if you tend to watch a lot of tutorials, and in that case you want to know what eyeshadow somebody is using, or you're trying to find a dupe. Then it can be a little bit confusing trying to have to go back and forth to get the shade name. So with that said, let's go ahead and test this bad boy on the eyes. With that said, I probably should show you what it looks like inside first. So let's go ahead and do that. So that I don't blind everybody, I'm covering up the mirror at the top. And I know some people like to think about packaging and whether or not you could fold the mirror back. I don't like folding the mirror behind my palettes, so it's not something that I'm going to try. I'm a little bit OCD. I don't like ruining the binding on items, and I don't really care to figure out whether or not the binding holds up. But if that is something that you're concerned about, I'm pretty sure there's some YouTubers who may address it. So these are the eyeshadows. They're a lot of browns in here, but I guess if you're looking for a everyday sort of one palette kind of thing, then that's definitely something to consider here. I tend to put a lot of little colorful shadows in my crease. So for me, all of these browns are not necessarily of interest, but that's just the personal thing, you know? I mean, everybody has their personal thing, and yeah, I'm not gonna judge her for sticking browns in her palette. That's just my cat meowing. This is what it looks like inside the palette. I'm using the packaging to cover up the mirror, and you can see my ugly unpainted nails. I'm not very good about doing my nails. I sit in front of a desk all day and typing on a keyboard, so I don't really do much in terms of upkeep there. But the eyeshadow shades look rather pretty in the pan, so that's a good starting point, right? We have about, let's see here, 9 of the like shimmery shades. Once I actually go ahead and swatch these later on, we'll see how many of them are actually foily or not. And then we have one here that's like a glittery shade. That's like the only glittery shade that I see in the palette. And based on the way that the glitter looks, it looks like it might be something that if you try blending it with a fluffy crease brush, could actually end up looking more matte, and you may be able to brush away all that glitter. We'll see. Then for the most part, they tend to be matte browns. There's only two colorful-ish mattes that I can see. We have one actual standout color matte here, and then you have just like a kind of like a what would you call that? Almost like a wine sort of color. Like, I guess it depends on what kind of wine you're drinking. It's let me see what the shade name is. It doesn't really help me. It's called Jungle Juice. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of like a beet red. Might be the kind of color choice I would name it. But, yeah. So, let's go ahead and see how these actually perform in the eyes, because we could sit here all day staring at these colors and not actually know how they perform. So let's get started. Alright, so I'm trying to determine what color we're going to go ahead and stick in the crease. We do have a few options here. For reference, I went ahead and primed my eyes off camera because when I took a look at my fingers, there was pink glitter everywhere. And I don't really want to get any of the glitter that's on the palette in my eyes because that's not eye safe, and that could just be a complete disaster. Don't want to deal with it. So to start with, I'm going to go with, and forgive me, but I actually need to read the shade names on the back here. Vanilla on Vanilla, just to kind of stick that up in my crease to be able to try blending some of these mattes out. So let's go ahead and do that now. And normally what I do to test that is I just kind of like dip it gently twice into a shadow, just so you can kind of get an idea of what I do for these first impressions. Let's grab and push hair out of the way, and let's see how it looks. Alright, so with that on as sort of a base color in the crease, I kind of want to have a little bit of fun with this look. So there is a shade, there's a shade called, and again I need to flip to the back, Check ID, and that's this shade right here. So I'm going to go ahead and dip my diffusing, what's it called? Yeah, diffused crease brush into the crease and see how that blends with the Vanilla Vanilla. Whew. So I did gently tap this in twice, and as you can see, there's a little bit of kick up. That's not an issue for me, just wanted to kind of note that. So I am having a little bit of trouble trying to get it to blend. It is very pigmented. I'm slightly shocked at how pigmented it is. So I'm going to see if I can work at that and get it to blend and see how that looks. Alright, I'll probably go back to that, but for now, what I'm going to do, just because this is something that's a little quirky that I do, I'm going to switch hands. Okay, so tend to apply the left eye with the left hand. And I know that's a little unusual, so I wanted to make a note of it. Alright, so because it is a little bit powdery and I just kind of want to show you, even though it's just a first impression, it's not really a full-on review, and I am being pretty gentle here, so I just wanted you to kind of see that, you know, it is really powdery, so I've been kind of gently dabbing in there and building it up as a technique for applying, and so I'm going to build it up again on this eye, but definitely be gentle with this. No swirling of the brush. If you hit this particular shade really hard, you're probably going to end up with a big powdery mess everywhere, so just a heads up, you might want to be a little gentle when applying the rest of these shades, at least the matte shade so far. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead now and see what some of these other colors look like. So let me grab a crease brush. So with my shader crease brush, I'm gonna go ahead and go into the shade Jungle Juice, which is this shade right here. It caught my eye and I really want to see how it looks. So let's see, I'm just gonna on one side try a few more times. Very, very gentle. I just kind of want to see how much it takes to build it up. Alright, I think this should be enough to kind of give it a good test and see how it looks in the crease. Alright, I'm going to go in again, very gently, and build that up a little bit more. Alright, I'm going to go ahead now and do the same on the other eye. And I have to say, for being a red, having to go very gently into it 3 times to build up the color, not a problem for me at all. And again, as you can see, I go in very, very gently, so it only makes sense that I would be going in multiple times to build up the color. Just so you can kind of see, since I'm going in with a, like a flat shader crease brush, that's what this one's called. It doesn't make as big of a dent. If I were to go in with a big fluffy brush, it probably would look more like this one. Again, hypothetically, I don't know. Alright, so now I'm going to try and kind of clean up some of the crease, and I'm going to use my blending brush. These are all Sigma brushes, by the way. I tend to use a lot of Sigma brushes on my eyes. I love that brand. And for me personally, these brushes just work amazing. So the next shade that I'm going to use, just to see how it works for cleaning it up, and I'm going to go very, very, very gently, is this shade right here called, let me make sure I got the right name. Yeah, Moscow Mule. I want to make sure I had the right one. Now I see why people like to have the shade names right here. It's really helpful when you're kind of wanting to show people what color you're using. Let's see. And my gosh, just give me a second here. I just noticed that I have a ton of glitter from the palette on this brush. Alright, I think that's about as even as I'm going to get it right now. So in that case, let's go ahead and do what I really love doing, and that is playing with the shimmer shades. I'm so tempted to go into this glittery shade right here because I have a feeling that if I were to have used a crease brush, it would look rather matte. So I want to try going in with a flatter brush and see how that looks in the outer corner. So let's give that one a go. Now, as with all of them, I'm going in rather gently to test the shadow and see how it looks. And by the way, I recommend you do this with all of your palettes because it's much easier to build color up than to end up applying way too much color and then not knowing how to like tone it down. Been there, done that. Ended up with a very unblended eyeshadow look that people actually liked. But yeah, normally doesn't happen that way. And I've taken my medium sweeper, by the way, and now I'm going to go ahead and apply that in the outer corner to see how that looks. So I have to say, if you were to use a glitter glue, you might be able to get that blue glitter to kind of show up on your eye. It did look like when I was putting it on there that it does show. But as I suspected, you can just kind of brush that glitter off and out of the way and use it as a matte shadow. Of course, you're going to have glitter everywhere for a while, but just clean that up with a fan brush and you'll be good. I'm struggling right now because I don't know how simple I want to make this look, but I'm not the kind of person to play it safe. So we're just going to go for it. I'm taking my eye shading brush. It's the E55. And I'm going to go in with this purple shade right here because I love purple. And any opportunity to use purple, I'm going for it. This shade is called RSVP. I'm going to go ahead and see how that looks all over my lid. Let's try it out. So for this one, I'm going to press in a little bit harder because I'm not getting any pigmentation on the brush right now. I think I finally got some pigment on here. Let's see how it looks. There we go. Now we've got something. I'm gonna go ahead and do this on the other eye since this is a first impression and you're learning, as I just learned right now, this shade probably would be better as an inner corner highlight than an all over the eyelid like shade. So I'm just gonna keep going with it. It is a first impression. I'm not gonna start taking it off and trying a different shade. Just gonna roll with it. But yeah, just a little FYI. I'm just gonna have to see if I can pack on a little bit more of that purple color because it is very sheer, even though I kind of tried digging my brush into that shade. And just to kind of prove it to you that I really tried to dig in there, you can already see the little brush marks in there and nothing showing for it. Gonna try it one more time. And I know some of you are probably thinking right now, why doesn't she just wet her brush and see what they look like? You're absolutely right. I could be doing that right now. It's just that I don't have any Fix Plus on me at the moment to work with. Because I usually like to see first what things look like when applying them dry. So I didn't think it being Kylie, well, I should have thought about it, but I didn't think about needing to use any Fix Plus today. So that's the actual reason as to why we're sitting here just trying to apply it dry. All right. So now, I think what I want to do is play with another shimmer shade, but it's not going to be that pink. I was really eyeing that pink and thinking, I wonder how that would look, but no. We're going to have to go with something a little bit darker to really make it look more like a halo eye. And I don't really want to go in with that same shade that he used in the outer V on the inner V because, well, inner V, I don't really want to use it in the inner corner because I really want to kind of experiment and see what some of these other shades look like and what kind of look you can create and how shimmer shades work with each other. So we're going to test out one of these shades. Let me grab a brush for that. I'm going to go ahead and go in with, let me move it over to this side, 21 Plus. This shade right here. And we're going to go ahead and apply that on the inner portion of the lid and see how that works with this one right here. Alright, so it doesn't really work with the purple. I didn't really think it would though, but I wanted again to play with some of the shimmer shades, so that's the one that I chose. Let's try applying some of that on the other side, and maybe I'll layer a little bit of gold on top of it. Well, no, because the rest of it's kind of don't know if that would necessarily go, but we'll see. Yeah, I definitely don't want to go in and add a little bit of gold. I don't think that would be a good idea. So this one's also a little bit sheer. I don't know how it looks on camera, but here looking at it in the mirror, it performs better. I'll give it that. It definitely performs better. And if you put your brush in with a little bit of pressure to get some of the color off and apply it onto your eyes, you're definitely going to get pigmentation. It does have a nice shine to it. So it's not a terrible shade, but I'm definitely going to need to play with it a little bit more to determine whether or not I actually like it. I really honestly can't say either way at the moment. So let me pick an inner corner highlight shade, which looking at it, there's really only one shade here that I think can tie up this look, or whatever you want to call it, that I have on my eyes right now. My big mesh of experimentation. Alright, so I'm going to use my little inner corner brush here, and I'm going to go into the shade, word I can't use because YouTube probably would be like, no using that word. Alright, so far this is my favorite of all of them. At least all the three that I've tried. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do some foundation, concealer, blush, highlight. I didn't pick up anything else from the Kylie Jenner birthday collection because it really just didn't interest me. This was the only item that actually sparked any interest in me at all. This is the only item that I actually thought was pretty and something that would be useful in my collection. And I'm sorry, I'm flashing you with this thing. It's the only one that I felt could add value to my collection. Some of the other items, not really into matte lipsticks, not huge on liquid lipsticks, and the highlight shade, I'm really into green highlighters and purple highlighters, pink peachy highlighters at the moment. Wasn't really for me. So I'll also then come back and we'll do the lower lash line, I'll pick one of these matte shades and we'll see how that performs. And then I'll just give you final thoughts. To finish off the look, I went ahead and I used a shade on the list, which was that pink shimmer shade that I was really wanting to try. I figured I'm not too keen on the way that the shimmers performed in general for this eye look, so might as well see what that pink shade looks like. And I have to say that I actually kind of liked it. I did have to go in a few times to get a little bit of color, but the color payoff was a lot better than the color payoff for that purple shade. As for how I feel about this palette as a whole, I like the mattes. I'm really into powdery mattes, and the mattes in here that I tried were relatively powdery. They were easy to blend, they were pigmented, and I like that. For me, that's the kind of matte that I look for. So I'm pleased with it in that sense, and if you like those kind of mattes as well, and you also happen to prefer mattes, then you probably would enjoy this palette. As for the shimmer shades, I kind of like shimmer shades over mattes, but we all need a good matte for creating a really nice intense crease. The shimmer shades are a bit disappointing, at least the shimmer shades that I tried, with the exception of On the List. But even On the List, I've seen better pink shimmer shades than the one that was in here. If that's not necessarily a problem for you, if you happen to always use Fix Plus and build up your shimmers, you may have no problem picking this one up and you probably will really enjoy it. But for me personally, I have a lot of really good shimmer shades in my collection, and even the new Violet Voss Flamingo palette, I had a little bit of trouble with those shimmer shades and getting them to be at the intensity that I like, but I was able to build them up. I struggled so much with that purple shade, and even some of the other shimmer shades that I had tried in here, I still had to build them up, and I didn't have that problem with a lot of other palettes I've tried. So as a whole, I don't necessarily think it's worth the price that I paid for this, which full prices are down below in the description. I believe it was $63. Yeah, I don't know. If you like Kylie Jenner, you like Kylie Cosmetics, you want to support Kylie, definitely go for it. You like mattes, the kind of mattes I described, it's a nice palette. If you can justify paying that amount, definitely pick it up. But again, I don't know, it's up in the air. I think I need to play with it a little bit more and see what I can do in getting the shimmer shadows to work the way that I like them to work, and get back to you on that one. But for now, I would say that this palette is okay. It's not one of those really great palettes, and it's not a complete dud either. So I really think that Kylie is on her way to creating really great things in the near future. I think that this palette is just the start of what she's capable of. The shades in here were just, at least the color story was really nice. And so I'll be doing some brush swatches of the shades in this palette so that you can see, and I'll post those on my Instagram in addition to doing a full review of this palette if you'd like to see it. Stay tuned for that. And again, my Instagram handle will be down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave comments, let me know what you want to see. And until then, take care.